Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
You have failed this city.
Wow. I know, right? Hey! Quit messing around!
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
Okay, this does not look like this is gonna end well. For you guys.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
It's you the right. What's the difference between you and me?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
But that is being human.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Slaz Free Talk, the Watchtower, where we talk all things DC. Today, we are going to just take a look at what is going on with DC Studios and James Gunn. What does it mean now that Paramount is going to be the boss of James Gunn? There's a lot of stuff going on and talked about in the interwebs, and well, I think I'm here to kind of ease your mind. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Watchtower. Now, you may not know this, I have two streams going right now. I have a vertical stream and a horizontal stream. For those of you who like to watch on your phone in a vertical shorts kind of way, you can watch my show that way. You can also watch it the normal way on YouTube in the nice horizontal full screen type of look. So yeah, you can find me on the YouTubes that way. Of course, you can also find us, if you don't watch us live or watch live, you can find us later on your favorite podcatching app and listen to us on your drive to and or from work or while you're at the gym or what have you. So that is out of the way. Let's start to get into this because, guys, it is crazy out there. The amount of misinformation and theories that are going wild and running rampant about James Gunn now that he is under, no, not yet, but now that he will be under Paramount in the coming months. I know there's going to be people out there who say, well, the deal isn't done. The deal could still fall through or this or that. You're right. It could fall through. I would say that the likelihood of that is around 10 to 15% of it falling through. I would say that it is far more likely that the deal gets pushed through, that it does get completed, and within about a year amount of time, Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery will be one company. But what does that mean for James Gunn and the DCU? A lot of people are curious. A lot of people are worried. You have people out there who are sitting there saying, well, David Ellison is going to remove James Gunn. There's some people saying that James Gunn is going to walk away himself. Again, I can't sit there and say without a doubt that none of that is going to happen. But if we sit back and take a look at the things that are being said today, things that have been said, and things that we know, well, let's kind of get down to it. Let's take a look, okay? Let's look at what is happening here. Now, I do see there's a couple people in the chat. I see Donovan in here says, I truly don't see Gunn leaving. Many people are pushing. He says, plus we don't even know if this deal will even go through, and it's going to be years till we feel any effect. You're not completely wrong. Like I said, the deal could still fall through. I think it is far less likely for it to fall through than it actually gets pushed through. I believe it's going to be pushed through without a doubt. And with him leaving, again, a lot of people are pushing it because they have a certain narrative, a certain agenda, something that they want to push, an idea and everything like that. But it goes the same way for the people that want to see him stay. They're not basing it off of any actual truth because David Ellison hasn't stated James Gunn is not going anywhere. He hasn't. So to sit there and say with 100% certainty that James Gunn is not going anywhere, well, that's kind of not the best way to put it, I should say. Felix is here, says, I hope he stays. He also says DC cannot go through this again. Yeah, we'll get into that. We surely will get into that. Okay. So first up, I want to talk about something that just got talked about today during an investors call that David Ellison had. Basically, this is it. He has revealed some new details about the merger of Warner Brothers, what it's going to mean for Warner Brothers and Paramount coming together. First up, HBO Max and Paramount Plus will be combined into one service. Now, does that mean that they're going to remove the HBO Max name, the Paramount Plus name? Are they going to create a new name altogether? That's to be seen. I know I heard some people freaking out because how could you get rid of HBO? HBO is the most recognizable name in television. It means superiority and things like that. It's kind of like, guys, calm down. All we know is they're combining them. They're going to combine them. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to stay HBO Max, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they kind of called it something else. Either way, you're going to have the same content out there. You're going to have the same content plus more on one app. This is a big one. 15 films per studio with 45-day theatrical windows for each film. 15 films per studio per year. That's what they're looking. They're looking to have 30 films out a year with 45-day theatrical windows for each movie. When we talk about each studio, that means Warner Brothers and Paramount. I saw a couple people sitting there saying, well, James Gunn's studio can't put out 15. He's going to fail. It's going to be... No, he's not. They're not talking that DC Studios, which just runs DC, has to put out 15 films a year. That's just absurd. But the companies, all of the IPs that are currently sitting under Warner Brothers, his expectation is, hey, we want 15 films a year coming out of Warner Brothers, just like we want 15 films a year coming out of Paramount. The nice thing about that, and the reality of it, is that's going to create, and not just create, but keep jobs. I know that there's this scary thing out there that they're going to be reducing the staff by $6 billion or something like that. But that's not over the course of 1 year. That's not going to just happen on day one. That's going to be something that they look at over the course of the next multiple years as they solidify their place in Hollywood. So, for instance, 15 films per studio per year is how it's going to essentially be, thus giving people jobs, directors, actors, so on and so forth. They do say that the company merged will have approximately $79 billion in debt. That's scary. That is scary. However, if they stick to the 15 films per studio, that's a big deal. That's a big plus. That's how they're going to really drive getting that debt down. The 45-day theatrical window is great. Again, I know a lot of us would love to see it longer. And again, this 45-day window is exclusivity in the theaters. That means for those first 45 days, a movie will solely be in a theater. And then after day 45, then they'll look at putting it on digital, renting it on demand, things like that. And then who knows, it could be another 3 months until they put it on streaming for free. But again, after that 45 days, they could do whatever they want with it. Now, that's not to say that every single movie is going to see that 45-day theatrical window. I believe that if a movie is failing, is doing miserably in theaters, they'll pull it out and put it on demand sooner. That's how it works. Sometimes if a movie if they need to open up space for another movie that's coming out, they may pull a movie a little earlier. Regardless, I like this. Sticking to the 45-day theatrical window is big for theaters. I think that's a good way to do it. $6 billion in cost cutting, including consolidating on tech infrastructure, real estate, corporate overheads, and more. Again, I talked about that just a little bit ago. The $6 billion in cost cutting includes tech infrastructure and real estate. That means they're going to get rid of a lot of this unused land and studio space that they don't need anymore because it's just going to be redundant. They're going to have way too much space. They're going to have way too much. So they're going to get rid of some of that. They're going to cut back a little bit on that. They're also going to invest and consolidate in their tech infrastructure, which means they're probably in consolidating things and getting things combined. Let's take the marketing, for instance. You don't necessarily need two large marketing teams. You could probably combine them and cut some people and things like that to lower the cost. Again, that goes with the corporate overhead. Are you going to need all of those corporate heads running the studios when a lot of them do the same exact thing that the other one does? So again, I know people don't like to see that people are going to lose jobs. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see people losing jobs. Look, take it from me. I just got laid off a few weeks ago. It sucks. I'm still looking for a job now that is worth my time, that is worth my energy, worth what I'm worth. And yeah, it's tough out there. It's not easy. They also say there's no plans to sell off or spin off any of their cable assets. Flexibility to put sports like UFC on any cable network. And that's a beautiful thing. They're not going to spin off. They're not going to sell off a lot of their assets. At least that's not the plan right now. I could see down the line maybe them doing that at some point once they really get a handle on everything. But yeah, they're not planning on it. There's no plans to do it right now. They will continue to license movies and TV shows to other studios and platforms. That makes sense. I mean, first off, when you license movies and TV shows, that's bringing revenue in. That's just that you're getting revenue. When you say, hey, Disney, you can put some of our movies on there, but you got to pay us X amount of money for this movie to put on there. That's getting them money. That's revenue that they wouldn't typically get just by having it on their own streamer or things like that. Makes sense. It's a smart move. Most studios do this anyways. And then they talk about AI and how it will be a tool used for artists, but never a replacement for storytellers. So as we take a look at this, what does this mean for James Gunn and DC Studios? Well, not a lot right now that we know of. There's not a lot in what they told us that says, hey, James Gunn is not safe or James Gunn is safe. However, we know James Gunn has a contract through the middle of 2027. Same with Peter Safran. That does mean that, hey, they're there for that amount of time. Could it last? Could they stay there for that entire time? Or will they get bought out? Will they get fired? Who knows at this point? We don't know. As we keep moving on, Superman Saga News decided to post this, which it's the same stuff that we just talked about. And the reason why I put that here is because it just has the Superman stuff on there. This is a big deal that people are talking about out in the world, in the pop culture world. They want to know what's going to happen with DC, and that's what's going on. Now, there is somebody who didn't mince words this week about this whole situation. John Campea of the John Campea Show decided to lose his godforsaken mind over this happening. Well, we do know why he lost his mind. I understand it's because he's got that leftist brain rot in him, and that's fine. But here's the thing. He lost his mind and started making claims and theories that have no basis in them. So our friend David Perez from Movie Talk Now, great guy, check out his channel. Awesome stuff over on his channel at Movie Talk Now. He posted what John Campea said. He said, I 100% think James Gunn will ask to leave DC before the end of the year. And that's from John Campea. That's what John Campea said. Why? Why would John Campea want to leave? Or not John Campea, James Gunn want to leave. Why, John? Why? Is it because you have this delusional Trump derangement syndrome and you just can't stand the fact or the idea that somebody who leans left is going to work for a company that is run by David Ellison, who is a supporter of Trump? That's really what it comes down to. And it's getting kind of ridiculous that people are acting that way. Now, I wrote an article and posted it. I'm starting to use the article thing on X right now, which I think is great. I think it's a really cool tool. I've just posted this, my third article that I threw up there, and this was today. And we're going to cover basically in today's show what I put on this article, because this is what people want to know. What is going on with DC Studios? What is going on with James Gunn? So I want people to kind of calm down a little bit. I think the big thing is people just want to run around and say XYZ. This is what's going to happen. This is the definite answer of what's going to happen when nobody knows it. I don't know it. Hell, I don't even think David Ellison knows it right now. And we're going to get into why, because that's not how mergers work. I've been saying this for months, that when Netflix or when Paramount and whenever companies were looking to purchase Warner Brothers, when they were looking to purchase Warner Brothers, they weren't sitting there saying to themselves, we have to purchase this to fire James Gunn and do what we want to do at DC Studios. None of them were thinking that. No, when they were talking about and thinking about and bidding to get Warner Brothers, it was about the company as a whole, the IPs as a whole. When it was on Netflix's side, they were all about, hey, this will be a gateway for us to get into theaters and have theatrical releases, as well as get a whole plethora of great IPs. And when it comes to Paramount, it's the same thing. They want these IPs. They want to be able to stretch their limbs and really showcase and run a new future of Paramount and Warner Brothers and things like that. So when it comes down to it, people aren't sitting there thinking, when I get Warner Brothers, we're firing James Gunn. No doubt about it. We're getting rid of him. That's not really what was going on. Despite what you may hear from people online, that's not what was happening. So it's important to really keep your emotions in check, your passion in check, and look at what is actually being said and what is happening out there. So right now, what changes are going to actually happen? What actually changes? What's going to happen? Well, right now, nothing. Just like what happened when Netflix was the winner of the bid, I sat down and had a very similar discussion. Nothing's going to change. It's going to be the same day-to-day business for James Gunn and Peter Safran. What they're going to do is they're going to keep moving forward. Supergirl comes out, Lanterns comes out, Clayface comes out, Man of Tomorrow gets in production, a couple other things getting put into production, because they can't just stop. They can't just stop, because if they were to stop, then it would totally screw up their future. That means if the Paramount deal doesn't go through, Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Studios are screwed because they have nothing to come out. If it does go through, Paramount will be pissed off, because it's like, why'd you stop working while this merger was going on? Like, we need content to come out. Like they said, they want 15 movies a year per studio. Well, 2 to 3 of those are going to be coming from DC Studios every year. So they need to keep moving. They can't stop. They need to keep planning, keep producing, keep putting things together. And if they stop, then that's not going to happen. So when it comes down to it, nothing is really going to change. Maybe there's going to be a little more scrutiny on spending. Like, hey, we can't spend too much. We can't go balls to the walls on these movies right now until everything's completed. But have things lined up. Start planning, start writing, get these projects moving, because we want to make sure we have stuff in the coming years. So yeah, it's not going to stop. Not to mention, look, they have HBO Max and Paramount Plus. They're combining them. They're going to want content and evergreen content. They're going to want content that is truly just theirs for that streaming service. Again, you can't stop. So DC Studios is going to continue putting together shows and making sure they have 1 or 2 shows a year to put on the streaming service, because, look, they need the evergreen content. That's what they need. Now, if the deal closes, if the regulators approve the acquisition and it goes and is officially closes, and that's speculated to happen within 8 to 12 months from now, could be less, could be more, but we'll comfortably say, I am going to comfortably say October. I think October, maybe November, but October seems like an ideal time frame for this deal to officially close. I think that's what's going to happen, because they're going to want to get it pushed through as quick as possible. If it closes in October, when that happens, that's when the interesting changes can start taking place, and things will start taking place. Basically, the company is going to evaluate everything that's going on within Warner Brothers Discovery and evaluate everything that's going on with Paramount and see, hey, what can we keep? What can we get rid of? That kind of stuff. The next thing is they're going to look at leadership and the efficiencies and the cost savings across the combined company. What can they do for that? Well, for me, I think that when it comes down to it, they're going to take a look. They're going to sit back and say, Paramount doesn't have a comic or a superhero division. So DC Studios, it's imperative to keep them around. Look, I just saw a post from Sil Abdul saying that Paramount may look and think, oh, we don't need DC Studios anymore. That's just absurd. That's asinine. Look, what we know in Hollywood right now is all these studios, all these companies want to have superhero films on the books. I get that the genre has dipped off quite a bit over the last number of years, but each studio is trying to reinvigorate it. Sony has decided to start anew and start fresh with a new Spider-Verse universe, and with Sony. They canceled everything, the Venoms, the Morbiuses, the Madam Webs, all that stuff that they were planning on doing for like the 5th time. They're canceling that again and starting fresh. Marvel Studios. Look, I know people think that Marvel Studios is just kind of pushing forward and continuing on with things. But believe it or not, after these next 2 Avengers movies, it is going to be a quote-unquote restart, refresh of the universe, which is what they need because they're trying to reinvigorate the genre for the theatrical experience. DC Studios is ahead of the game with that. They're ahead of Sony. They're ahead of Marvel. They're ahead of anybody else that could do it because they started in 2025. So for Paramount to come in and say, and take a look at everything and say, well, this just isn't viable. We're going to get, that's just dumb. They're not going to do that. DC Studios is going to stick around because it's something that Paramount doesn't have at all. They don't have that. So that's going to stick around. New ownership groups and prioritizes the franchises that can most reliably drive streaming subscriptions and theatrical revenue. That goes right back to what I'm saying about DC Studios. DC is going to be a franchise that is going to reliably bring them revenue, whether it's on streaming or in theaters. So again, they're going to keep it around. It is way too far of a valuable IP for them to just walk away from. But here we go. What is James Gunn facing? What is the real thing that he is facing? So, like I said, in the middle of all of this, people want to sit there and say, James Gunn is gone. He's leaving. He's getting booted. Boop, he's gone. Why? Some corners of the internet are claiming that because David Ellison, the Skydance chief, is perceived as a political conservative, which he is. He is. He will automatically remove James Gunn and Peter Safran from DC Studios. Let's be clear about what is fact and assumption. I'm going to read this directly because I think it's important. It says, there's currently no public statement from David Ellison saying he intends to purge left-leaning creatives from Hollywood or DC Studios specifically. That narrative is being constructed almost entirely from political interference and online chatter, not from on-record corporate guidance. Look, we do know that he wants to get rid of the woke agenda that has been in Hollywood. And yes, doing that is going to mean walking away from certain creatives who love to push their woke ideals and woke agendas. That's what David Ellison he wants to do. He wants to do it with Paramount, and he's going to want to do that with Warner Brothers as well. But let's sit back for a second and take a look at things from a larger stance. Paramount owns Star Trek. Star Trek recently, that's what is it, Starfleet Academy or whatever, is one of the wokiest shows that have ever been on TV. A lot of other Star Trek stuff has been the same way. Now, I know a lot of people love to sit there and say, well, Star Trek has always been woke. No, it hasn't. Star Trek hasn't always been woke. Star Trek has always pushed the bar. Star Trek has always been at the forefront of trying to highlight and showcase, hey, this is how our civilization should be and adapt and evolve. But there comes a time whenever it's just incorrect. It's wrong. They're not doing it right. They're not doing it because it fits the story. They're doing it because, we need to put something in there to get a check mark in a form to make sure we have it. And we're seeing that happen with Star Trek right now. The thing is that's under David Ellison. And, well, what has he done? Nothing. He's letting it run its course. He understands that, hey, if it fails, then we'll fix it. But if it succeeds, if it's going to make us money, then let it continue. Very interesting that a lot of people just ignore. Let's also take a look at James Gunn. James Gunn has not built his DC films around overt political messaging. He just hasn't. He's never, not even just his DC films, his MCU films. He doesn't push any left-leaning ideals. He doesn't push agendas in his movies. And I know a lot of people want to sit there and say, well, the war stuff in Superman, well, Superman was written before the Israeli-Palestine thing happened. That was written, and it was put into production before all that happened. So it wasn't like it was a commentary on Israel and Palestine like a lot of people want to say. It just sucks that, hey, it kind of lined up with that, but that's what happens in the world, specifically the Middle East. And he was just highlighting that and showcasing that in his movie. I mean, what do you want to say about that? Like, there's nothing that you could really combat because, yes, it was written and done and approved to be pushed in before. So, you keep going. Why would he get fired for his ideals? I've even heard somebody say that Donald Trump doesn't like James Gunn. When has Donald Trump ever said anything about James Gunn? When has James Gunn ever publicly come out and said anything about Donald Trump? I haven't seen it. Maybe he has, but I have not seen it. But regardless, if he's doing well with the studio, if he's not pushing the agendas that David Ellison doesn't want to see, if he's at least making the studio money, he's not going to fire him. And then there's speculation that John Campea made, that James Gunn will ask to leave, that he will ask to leave to get out of his contract before the end of 2026. There's no basis on that. There's zero basis on that at all. James Gunn is going to be James Gunn. And look, this is a dream job for a creator like James Gunn. It is, and that's why he has it. That's why he's there. He understands it's a dream job. So to ask to get out of it is kind of ridiculous, especially if David Ellison goes to him and says, look, keep doing what you're doing. Make us some money. We like what we're seeing. Why would James Gunn leave? Now, if David Ellison goes in there and says, look, I want you to change this, change that, change this, change that. First off, David Ellison is a complete fool if he does that. That's called micromanaging, and it's stupid. But if he were to just say, hey, James, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing all right. You're doing well. I mean, come on. Well, why would anything? Well, why? Like, I just don't get it. People are crazy. Now, until something or anything changes on the record when it comes to James Gunn and Peter Safran and David Ellison and all that kind of stuff, people need to just relax. There's literally nothing. Don't listen to your Matt McGloins of Cosmic Book News saying stupid shit. Oh, the MAGA crowd is coming to do this, the MAGA this, the MAGA that. Dude, don't forget that Matt McGloin walked out of the Superman movie and posted and touted how great of a movie it is and how much he loved it and how great of a job James Gunn did. But now he's posting and saying things that James Gunn is out with his horrible DCU and things like, dude, you want to talk about flip-floppers? That's the guy you should be calling out, not someone like me who has stood my ground from the very beginning. But people listen to him. People listen to those people who have no idea, no basis or understanding of what is happening. It's pretty pathetic. Look, the early DCU has been a success so far. Superman, $624 million box office. Huge audience praises, huge critic praise. People love it. People are excited. It was the highest grossing superhero film in 2025. It outperformed the box office average for superhero films for 3 years in a row. Like, it's been a success for 2025. For where the superhero genre was in 2025, it is a massive, huge success, especially as a first outing for a brand new IP franchise. I'm sorry, like, you can't get past that. I know people love to sit there and twist the nerve. It didn't make 670, that Man of Steel man in 2013. It didn't make the same money that Deadpool and Wolverine made. Guys, you're fucking retarded. because it didn't matter. That wasn't, neither one of those were the bar. Neither. 2025 was vastly different than 2013. Deadpool and Wolverine was a film 10 plus years in the making. It was an Avenger level type of movie that people wanted to see. So yeah, that's going to make $1 billion. Superman in 2025, a first outing of a new franchise, coming off the heels of what is probably one of the stinkiest and worst failures of the superhero genre with the DCEU. Yeah, $625 million. Critical and audience praises. #1 grossing superhero movie in 2025. That's a massive success. A massive success. And you know who understands that? Warner Brothers, Paramount, DC Studios. Hell, even Netflix understood that. So to sit here and think, oh, well, James Gunn's out because it's failed. So far, the DCU has failed. It's not. Peacemaker was a success. Creature Commandos was a success. We're getting a second season of Creature Commandos. That proves that it's a success. And I know a lot of people love to say, well, James Gunn can just greenlight whatever he wants. Yeah, but let's not forget he doesn't run HBO Max. HBO Max are the ones that had to say, hey, we want another one of those. We want to see a second season of that on HBO Max. Because if James Gunn went to them and said, hey, I'd love to do a second season, and HBO Max was like, look, it didn't do well. It was terrible. It did fucking terrible for us. Get lost. We would have no Creature Commando season 2 coming. But it was successful. It was successful enough for HBO Max to say, yeah, we'll take another. We'll take another. So again, people just don't understand. They want to push agendas and narratives that James Gunn is gone. The DC Studios is ruined. The DCU is over. And that's the ridiculous part of all this, is because they want to push this idea, and these are ideas that, hey, James Gunn's gone. The Snyderverse is back. You guys love to push this whole idea that they're going to get rid of James Gunn because he's a leftist and because he has left-leaning ideals. Why would they then bring Zack Snyder in, who is probably more so progressive in what he puts on screen and what he talks about in public? Why would they bring him in? That makes zero sense. There's also this whole thing where people say, oh, well, Paramount wants to have event films. They want to have an event film. They want to have big event movies. Okay. DC they're doing that. Superman, big event movie. They're going to continue to do that. Well, only Zack Snyder can give you that with DC. No. Let's not forget that the biggest DCEU movie wasn't even a Zack Snyder movie. It was Aquaman by James Wan. Like, to sit there and act like the only person that can give you big tentpole blockbuster films in DC is Zack Snyder is just absurd. James Gunn just did it with Superman. It's to be seen if Supergirl's going to do it. Clayface isn't that kind of movie. That's more of that's almost like an independent film, Clayface. Like it's got that kind of feeling to it in my mind. But I mean, yeah, it's a higher budget movie, but not high budget. Like, it's less than $100 million movie. So it's not a big event film. Supergirl's an event film. Let's see how that does. Man of Tomorrow's going to be an event film. Let's see how that does. I'm banking on both of them doing pretty well, though. I really am. Let's not forget that the streaming strategy is a wild card here. One of the core rationales behind modern media mergers is build a stronger direct-to-consumer ecosystem. And that's what they call it, direct-to-consumer, DTC, direct-to-consumer ecosystem. Reports around Paramount and Warner Brothers combined repeatedly point to streaming scale and library strength as key motives. That thesis holds. DC value inside the new company could actually increase. Yes, we could see more output from DC Studios because of the importance of streaming. So, James Gunn again. could be safe. Again, I'm not sitting here saying that it's a definite that James Gunn is safe. What I'm saying is we're taking a look at the facts, the things that are going on in Hollywood, in this whole ordeal, and realizing, hey, things lean a little more towards James Gunn being safe as long as he wants to be there, which I don't think he doesn't want to be, because it's a dream job. I know he's like 60 years old, so look, at some point he's going to want to say, I'm good, I'm done. And maybe that's been his plan, is to be there for 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years, and then walk away. Maybe that's been his plan the entire time. But if we sit back and take a look at things, there's no reason or even belief or anything to say, no, he's walking away himself. Obviously, the regulatory check, we have to understand that the deal is not a guarantee to close. Regulators in the U.S. and internationally are expected to review the transaction very closely. California AG specifically is like, we're going to dive into this. A very leftist state, mind you, is like, we're going to dive into this very, very heavily and make sure and scrutinize it with a fine-tooth comb and all this kind of stuff. Okay, whatever. Let's see what happens. But the reality comes down. Paramount, Skydance have agreed to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. Boards have approved it. Regulatory review and shareholder approval are still pending. As of today, March 2nd, 2026, James Gunn and Peter Safran are still in charge of DC Studios. If the deal closes, DC will operate under new corporate ownership, which will absolutely evaluate the performance, strategy, and long-term franchise value. That is the standard operating procedure in any mega merger. Happened when Disney took over Fox. So the future of DCU will not be decided by online speculation. It will be decided by execution, audience response, and whether the new parent company believes the current plan is the fastest path to sustainable franchise growth. Everything else right now is just noise. And that's kind of the big thing, is it's kind of like, guys, what are we looking at here? Why is it so important for James Gunn to lose his job? I've been asking this question a lot lately on social media. Why do you hate James Gunn? Why are you against James Gunn so much? A lot of people just sit there and say, I don't like tweets he made in 2009. I don't like the Suicide Squad. Okay. But to actively sit there and wish for somebody to fail and to lose their job because you don't like a movie, you don't like joke tweets that happened almost 20 years ago, that's pretty pathetic. That is pretty pathetic. That goes against the artistic integrity many of you fought for just a few years ago. And it's sad. It truly is sad. And I don't know what else to really say. Besides this, I think this is great because David Ellison, during his call, the investor call today, said that David Ellison calls Warner Brothers 2025 lineup a powerhouse slate. Warner Brothers delivered a powerhouse slate last year with Superman, Minecraft, and Sinners. Yeah. He calls it how it is. It was a powerhouse slate. Warner Brothers did fantastic in 2025. Going to have multiple Academy Award winners, whether it's movies or actors or directors or producers or music or what have you, under their belt in a couple weeks because of the amazing slate they had in 2025. Pam Abdi, Mike DeLuca, big part of that. But you know who else was? James Gunn and Peter Safran. So to sit there and act like, oh, it's it. They're done. They're leaving. It's just foolish. It's stupid. People need to calm down. That's not what's happening. Not what is happening at all. So, come on, people. Come on. Let's see. Let's do this here. Let's do DVD merger. I am going to add this right now. So now for the next 30 minutes, 20 minutes or so, I want you guys to ask questions. I want you guys to have an open discussion with me about this merger. What are you worried about? What do you think is going to happen? in the future with this whole thing? How is it going to play out? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So we'll get started here. I know there's some comments that have been popping up as I've been talking. Let's get into it. All right. Powerful presenting 624 million. Yes, the box office for Superman just recently updated. Look, it takes a little time. So, especially internationally, when numbers don't come in as quickly or as fluidly as they do in the domestic side of things. So yeah. Superman is now at 624 million. I wouldn't be surprised if it went up a couple more million over the next couple months. This is typical. This happens with all movies. I know a lot of people are sitting there. The haters love to sit there and say, oh, they're just trying to find any amount of money they can to make it look like this movie wasn't a flop. No, the movie is a success. The movie's a success, full stop, and every facet of it. And they're just kind of making sure that the right numbers get talked about. The Truth 875. I do want to say this. I do want to say this. You love to come on my channel in my comment section and talk shit on me and things like that. Truth. The Truth 875. You're not even the real Truth. So your comment here is, wait a minute. So 24 hours ago, him leaving was impossible. There are different. Look, I have my theory, which my theory is that he's not going anywhere, that he's going to at least finish out his contract and probably get an extension. That's my belief. But like I said, when we sit down and look at things logically and talk things out together, look, nobody knows anything for a fact. I have my theory and look, these are the facts. And that's what I do on my channel. The Truth 875 says, now it is. Okay, he's not staying for reasons you guys know pretty damn well why. No, why? Tell us. Or do you want to just sit there and act like you're all-knowing and want to jump there and say, he's leaving, he's gone, because why? First off, let me just put this out there. I want everybody to understand something here. I don't care who runs DC Studios. Full stop. I've said this for years at this point. I do not care who runs DC Studios. What I care about is them utilizing DC and the IP to give us a franchise that is fun and exciting and hopeful and has some longevity to it. The reason why I'm so happy with James Gunn being in that role is because he's giving us that. The future of DC on film has never been as bright as it is right now. And the reason for that is because there's a plan, there's coherence, there's an idea. We didn't have that in 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 17, 18, all the way up to 2022. It was a hodgepodge of a mess. And I know a lot of people love to sit there and say, well, Zack Snyder had a plan. Okay. That doesn't mean it was going to be executed well. I like his movies. But let's not forget the power struggle that was going on at Warner Brothers at that time. There was a power struggle going on. Some people liked what Zack was doing. Some people did not like what Zack was doing. They were trying to force Zack to do something he didn't want to do. Tell him to do this. Tell him to do that. The vision that Zack had was not there. It was not going to get completed like you think it was going to in 2016 or 17 or whatever. It was never going to happen because of the power struggle within the company. So yes, when I sit here and say the future is more bright for DC as a film franchise now more than ever before, it's fact. It's true. Because there is no power struggle. There is no hatred. There is no infighting. They have a singular vision. They have somebody in charge who has an idea, a plan to push forward with strong, fun, exciting filmmaking. And that's why I say that. So for people to sit there and act like, oh, DC is terrible right now, it's in the worst position ever. No, go back to 2016. Take a look at that. Understand what was happening behind the scenes then. It was a complete mess. You go before that. back when Nolan was running things. All he wanted to do was a realistic Batman. There was no solid plan for a universe, for great films. There's never been a brighter time for DC films than there is right now. Love or hate James Gunn, that's a fact. That's a fact. And you can't get by that. You can't ignore that. Powerful Presenting says, if the deal falls through, we should celebrate. I disagree. I'm somebody, look, I was on the Paramount side of things before Netflix won the bid initially. I like the idea of Paramount winning the bid. I like the idea of Paramount running things. When they started to act childish, when David Ellison was like, this is not fair, I have a better deal, and he was freaking out, I was kind of like, dude, no. And then I started to hear what Netflix had and what they were saying. And look, when you get new information, you start to lean like, hey, I like this. You know, I didn't like Netflix at first, but starting to hear what they were saying, I didn't mind it. I kind of liked it. But I still like Paramount's idea and plans. I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all. Now, I won't say it at all. I'm against a sale completely. I think Warner Brothers Discovery should stay its own entity. I've said that many, many times. But because we know that's not going to happen, I'm not against Paramount getting it. I'm not. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. The sale is going to happen one way or another. If it goes to Paramount, Netflix, or whomever, it's going to happen. So, Conquest. What is that? Armada? Is that supposed to be Armada? Conquest Armada? Maybe Armed? Conquest? Names and YouTube names are weird. They say Gunn won't go anywhere unless the next few movies and TV shows don't do well. In my opinion, if you love DC animations like Justice League Unlimited, I believe that's what we are getting. I'm hyped. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be exactly like Justice League Unlimited, but it feels coherent and connected and bright and hopeful and exciting like that series was. So yeah, I agree. If you like that kind of stuff, we're probably going to get more of that. You know, one thing that people don't realize is Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder really damaged DC. Look, I love what Nolan did with the Batman stuff, even though Batman Begins is the best of those three films. And Zack Snyder, Man of Steel, fantastic movie. Batman vs. Superman's not bad. In my opinion, like, it has problems, but I enjoy it. Zack Snyder's Justice League is better than 2017's Justice League. Has a lot of issues, but it's still better than 2017's version. So yeah, I like what they did. I do like what they did. But let's not beat around the bush. Let's not sit here and say that they didn't actually hurt DC more than they helped it. Because they put these ideas into many fans' minds that DC has to be the dark, the gritty, the more grounded take of superhero films, while Marvel is this. That's not true. First off, not all of DC needs to be like that. DC, in many ways, in many facets, can be very much fun, exciting, hopeful, bright, colorful, jokey. I mean, you have characters like Shazam, you have characters like Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, and you have these types of characters that are just fun and exciting. And sure, you have your hopeful with Superman and Supergirl and things like that. And then you have your dark and dreary like Batman, like Constantine, the Justice League Dark Gang, and things like that. So yeah, you can play in all avenues of DC. It doesn't just have to be dark, gritty, and so earnest like what Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder were trying to do. And that really hurt the DC brand. And I think a lot of people today take a look at that and say, DC should be like that. And it's like, no, back up a little bit. There's so much more to DC than just the dark and gritty and earnest. There's so much more to it. I'm okay with having a little darker side of DC, but I want the hopeful. I want the exciting. I want the funny. I want the jokes. Because they're from comic books. They're from the funny books. So yeah, it should be funny sometimes. It should be lighthearted sometimes. It should be bright and sunny sometimes. But sometimes it can also be dark and dreary. So yeah, look, I'm all for them going that route and being similar to Justice League Unlimited, but I also feel like, hey, if they go more lighthearted and in some facets like Justice League, and then goes darker in some facets with like the Batman and stuff like that, I'm okay with it. Because you're doing different. Look at Clayface. Clayface is going to be an R-rated horror film, body horror film in DC. Yet people sit here and act like everything James Gunn is doing is just jokey. No, he's spreading his wings. He's doing different things across the board, and that's exciting. Mopsis, I'm sorry, I do not speak whatever language that is or read it. I apologize. I wish I could, but I cannot. So, okay. Blood Ocean says old cringy tweets are not a crime. They are not. They are not. Yeah, one thing I've actually decided, back in, when was that, 2019, when those tweets came out, or 2017, whenever it was they came out. When those tweets came out, I decided at that point in time, I made a comment. I was part of Bridging the Geekdoms at the time. We were just doing podcasts, and we discussed that whole situation on the podcast. I stood with James Gunn because we know at the time, we knew who James Gunn was. We knew he was somebody, you take a look at his filmography, he liked to be on that edgy joke and tried to be cool and things like that, and have fun with just sometimes not very funny jokes. So I stood with him and I said, look, this whole cancel culture of taking a look at what somebody did 10, 15, 20 years ago to cancel them today is absurd. It's stupid. So I stood with James Gunn. After that, after I discussed that, I have never talked about it again, at least in any large capacity, because a lot of people love to sit there and say the P word when it comes to him, the big P word. And it's like, no, he's not. He made untasteful, trying to be edgy tweets in 2009. And some people thought they were funny. Some people didn't. That's who he was. He doesn't do it anymore. And there's no evidence of what people are claiming he is. Now, if evidence came out that showcased, hey, he's really this, yeah, then you come out and you say, F that guy, we're done, we're not messing with it. Some people just get crazy. And that's why I don't talk about it. That's why I don't talk about it. Sarah Text Chris says, Gunn leaves in 2027 for Feige's position. Did John Campea say that too? Look, there's been rumor for a while that the Russo brothers may be taking over for Feige at Marvel Studios. True or not, we'll see. But that was rumored a couple years ago. Now people are going to say, oh, Gunn leaves and goes and takes Feige's position. I don't know if that happens. Like I said, James Gunn is, 60 years old? I don't see him saying, oh, I'm going to leave this job of running DC and then go and do Marvel and run Marvel. Whoever Disney hires to replace Kevin Feige, if that gets down to that, it's going to be somebody who's going to be there for the long haul. Kevin Feige's been there for 20 years. They're going to want more than 20 years. They're going to want somebody who is going to say, look, I'll be here for 10 years. I don't see James Gunn even being the head of DC Studios for 10 more years, let alone going to Marvel and doing it for 10 years. So I just don't see that happening. And I don't think he would quit this job without knowing if he had a job over there or somewhere else. And Feige isn't due to leave speculatively. People are speculating that if Feige leaves, he'll be leaving after Secret Wars, which is a couple years away. Blood Ocean 07, do you think Paramount might change release dates for DC? I don't think they'll change anything that's currently lined up right now. So you're not going to see changes. Obviously, Supergirl, that kind of stuff, they can't touch those. Man of Tomorrow, they can't. They probably won't change. And the Batman Part 2, I don't think they'll change. Everything else, anything else that gets announced or put into production now, sure, that's a possibility. But I think the two that you're talking about specifically are the Batman Part 2 and Man of Tomorrow. I don't see them changing it. Superman had a large amount of success in July, so why would you take Man of Tomorrow out of July? The Batman Part 2, that's kind of up in the air. I think the first one came out, didn't the first one come out in October or September or something like that? So you're looking at the same time frame, and it had success there. Why would you move it out of there? And there's no real competition for either one at this juncture in those dates that they're coming out. So I don't think they'll move those at all. Conquest says, honestly, I feel we are finally getting the DCU we deserve. I agree. I've been saying for quite some time, and I just said it a little bit ago, this is the brightest the future has ever looked for DC on film and in television and things like that. This is definitely something that we've deserved and that we need to get and that we should have gotten years ago. It sucks that it didn't happen with Affleck as Batman. It sucks it didn't happen with Cavill as Superman or Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and so on and so forth. It sucks, but we're getting it now. And Corn Sweat is a damn good Superman. I think he portrays Superman better than Henry Cavill. I truly believe that. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Blood Ocean says Zack Snyder had a plan of 5 movies. He did. He had a plan of 5 movies, but he also was kind of helping correlate Wonder Woman and Aquaman and things like that. Like he was helping plan the movies around his 5 films as well, Suicide Squad, things like that. So yeah, while his story was specifically 5 movies, he did kind of help usher in the other stuff that was going on. But again, we sit there and say those other things that were coming out, sure, Wonder Woman did good, Aquaman did good. And then after that, it kind of fell out. And I'm not saying Zach had anything to do with those other movies, Shazam and so on and so forth, but it showcases the power struggle that was going on at that time and highlights that and says, look, the future for DC was not very good back then. It was not. You know, Zach had an idea. He wanted to do one thing. And then Warner Brothers came and said, well, we want to do all this other stuff, and we don't like what you're doing. We want you to do something else and not be as you are. And things kind of got messed up because of it. So Blood Ocean also says Snyder and Gunn are just movie directors who are waiting just like the rest of us. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hunter Iggy says, could Warner Brothers or Paramount license James Gunn's DCU to someone else, or could Disney buy the IP off DC? Look, anything could happen. Yes, Paramount, once Paramount owns, because you know the deal is still pending, it hasn't gone through yet. But once Paramount owns everything, they can do whatever the hell they want with it. If they want to say, you know what, we don't want to do this, let's call up Legendary, let's call up another company, whatever, you know, whomever they want. And they say, look, we got the DC, we just don't want to do DC. Why don't you guys do DC for us? We'll split the profits, you know, we'll be a distributor, we'll be a production partner or something like that. We'll invest only so much if you do the bulk of it. They could do that. Or they could say, you know what, we're going to get rid of our DC IP. We don't want to be in the comics business or the superhero business at all. We can sell it off, sell it to whomever wants to buy. It could be Disney, could be Netflix, could be Sony, it could be anybody. That's something they could do. It's a very good possibility that, hey, maybe in a number of years, they start selling off some of their properties. Could it be DC? Could it be Harry Potter? Could it be this? Could it be that? It could be anything. It's a possibility. So I'm not going to sit here and say, no, it's not going to happen. And I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, it's definitely going to happen. It's just a possibility. It really is. Conquest says they did Robin come to Batman in a dream. Like, I don't know, it wasn't my type of universe. I don't hate it though. I don't know what you're talking about there, Conquest. Sorry. Blood Ocean says, show me color. Supergirl JLM says, I definitely prefer Superman to be hopeful and kind and not some moody god. A lot of people, yeah, look, I say it all the time. Man of Steel is my favorite Superman movie. While I think David Cornsweet is a better Superman as a character, I believe Man of Steel is the better Superman movie. I love Superman or Man of Steel. I think it's a great movie. I think it's my favorite superhero film. So Man of Steel is a great film, but it didn't work for everybody. Batman v Superman worked for even less people. So to sit there and act like, oh, what Zach was doing was fully beloved, it wasn't. It never was. And that's the truth of the matter. And just like Supergirl JLM here says, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're he or she, they prefer Superman to be hopeful, not like what Zack Snyder was doing. And I know a lot of people, even I, will say, look, Zack Snyder's Superman was hopeful down the line, but you had to get there. There was a story to get to that. And people didn't want to sit through the story. They wanted to turn on a Superman movie and just feel joy. And that's the one thing that I give to Superman 2025 is when I walked out of that theater, I'm a punk rocker. Yes, I am. Hearing that music and seeing that ending scene, you can't help but just feel good. And I'm not saying you didn't feel good about walking out of Man of Steel. I did. Welcome to the Planet. And the big cheesy smile that he had. Great moment. But I felt so joyful coming out of Superman 2025. So that's what people wanted. And that's okay. It is okay. My Deerock says James Gunn will quit. Well, maybe, maybe not. Again, this is a dream job for most people. There's no guarantee. Look, I think one of the things John Campea said was there will be studios lined up to hire James Gunn. Yeah, studios will line up to hire James Gunn, but is it going to be what he wants to do? You see, he loves playing in the DC sandbox. He's a huge DC fan. Batman's his favorite DC character, his comic book character. He loves DC. Sure, he could leave here and go work at Marvel doing more films for them. He could go to Sony and work on the Spider-Verse there. That'd be pathetic. That would be a downgrade. But if he's not getting bullied and pushed to do something he doesn't want to do at DC Studios, why would he leave? Why would he leave? If things aren't black and white, I've been saying this a lot lately. Things are not black and white. Things aren't left or right, like people love to put. Everybody loves to say you're either left or you're right. You're either left-leaning or right-leaning. That's what people love to do. The problem is it's not true. It's not true. Look, I admit, I'm a gun-toting, MAGA hat-wearing, Trump-supporting conservative. I am. But I still like James Gunn as a director. I still like Zack Snyder as a director. I still watch movies that are made by directors who are left-leaning. I still support actors who are good actors. I may not agree with what they say politically, how they act outside of their movies, but why does it matter? Like, yeah, that's stupid. I'm not friends with you. I don't fucking care what you say. Don't put that crap in your movies. Don't push it in your movies. And I'm happy. Just entertain me. I want to be entertained. I don't care what political side you fall on, as long as you entertain me. And if when you're entertaining me, I don't like it, and I don't like the message you're pushing, guess what? I get up and walk away. I turn it off. It's that simple. This whole idea that everything has to be left or right, or you're one or the other, is absurd. It's absurd. It's just stupid. It really is. Ignited Shadow. DC already moved from the darker since 2017. It's been light for years. People just didn't care to pay for it unless Batman and Joker are in the title. I would agree with you if you weren't wrong. You say that DC moved away from the darker since 2017. I want you to go back and watch a lot of those movies. I do. I want you to go back. The aesthetic, the feel, the tone was still very much rooted in what started in 2013 with Man of Steel and then Suicide Squad and BVS, all that kind of stuff. The tone, the feel, the execution of all those movies still were very much what started in 2013. 2025 Superman doesn't feel like a DCEU movie. It doesn't feel like 2013's Man of Steel, BVS in tone or execution. It doesn't feel like a Marvel movie. It feels like something its own. And that's the difference that people don't seem to get. It wasn't just the fact that DC decided to go lighter in 2017, 2018, 19, so on and so forth. It was that they were unwilling to separate themselves from the darkness that started in 2013 and go full light or go a new direction. When they combined the two, it didn't work because it started one way. So if it started one way, you should have continued going that way. But they didn't. What they did was they kind of made this hodgepodge of a mess. And when they did that, that's when things got screwed up and it didn't work. And that's where we sit today. Oh, that's where we sat in 2022, I should say. Today in 2026, after Superman in 2025, it's completely different. It does not feel like the old DCEU. It doesn't feel like the hodgepodge mess that they made in 2018, 19, and 20. And look, I like some of the movies that came out then. I do like The Flash. I love Shazam. The first Shazam movie is a blast. Blue Beetle was fantastic. There's a handful of movies that came out from 2013 to 2022 that I truly enjoy. But let's not sit here and act like what came out in 2025 with Superman is anything like that, because it's not. It's not. Which is why there was a lot of audience and fans that loved the movie, and critics loved it as well. It's just widely appreciated. Hydra Asylum Comics. I feel like we're so much closer to Deadman, Etrigan, Plastic Man, Green Arrow, and other characters we've never seen on the big screen than ever right now. Man, you're so true. Like I said, I'd love to see Etrigan on the big screen. Like, imagine like this beastie, like partial CG and practical effect Etrigan on screen. Like, come on, man, that'd be amazing. That would be amazing. Deadman would be cool to see him, like, make it where he's like torturing Batman or something like that, and you know, Batman being all his moody self. Like, come on, man, you could just have so much fun with that kind of stuff. I would love to see it. Green Arrow would be great to see on the big screen as well. Just as long as they don't make him Batman light like they did with the Arrow TV show. Make him Green Arrow, not a pseudo Batman. I'd love to see it. My Dear Rock says Paramount is going to want too much control. The problem is, what people don't seem to get with that is they can't just control everything. There's too much. David Ellison isn't going to be able to control everything. He's not going to micromanage everything. There's too much. He's going to have to be able to have people he trusts in positions. Is that James Gunn and Peter Safran? That's to be seen right now. Is it Abdi and DeLuca? That's to be seen right now. I hope so. They've been killing it. 2025 was amazing for Warner Brothers. Why would you want to get rid of the crew? Abdi, DeLuca, Safran, Gunn, who made all that money and all that success with Warner Brothers. That's just dumb. And Ellison isn't dumb. So I think people, they just don't get it. Conquest says, in the Clayface movie we're getting is how it should be, a horror movie, his story, dark. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Blood Ocean. On another note, what is your outro song you use for your videos? It is something that I created. I wrote the lyrics, and then I utilized, yes, I know some people don't like this, but I utilized AI to create the song. You can actually find it on YouTube, I believe. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I can't even remember what the name of the song is. I don't know, guys. Sometimes I just do things and don't think about it. And like, I made it and then I walked away from it and haven't thought about it since. Like, I put it on here and that's pretty much it. So you can look up my name on Apple Music, Slav. You can look up Slav and it should be in here. Let's see. What is it? Where is it? Come on. I'm looking on my phone here to see if I can find it, because that'll help a little bit more. Let's do this. Oops. No, what the hell? There it is. The DCU Future is Alive is what it's called. So let's see if I can find it on here. DCU Future is Alive. There it is. I will share this with you right now. All right, put it in the comments for you. Supergirl says that they are she. I apologize if I said he, but yes, you're a she. Obviously, Supergirl is in the name, you would think, but you see some guys, they love to promote their women superheroes as well. Hunter Iggy says, what are your thoughts on Zack Snyder defending the Snyder Bros? And what are your thoughts, Zack Snyder saying he did not want to do World's Finest into DCEU because he hated... I didn't see. You don't have the rest of it. Okay. First off, I already talked about the thing on another video where he defends the Snyder Bros. First off, he's wrong. There is much toxicity within the Snyder fandom. With specifically, the Snyder Bros have taken over. The cult has taken over the Snyder fandom, which is why I distanced myself from the Snyder fandom a number of years ago because I didn't want to be lumped in with all that toxicity. So yeah, I mean, he's wrong. There's toxicity. I get that they raised money. I helped raise money. I put my money into it. I helped raise money for AFSP to hopefully save lives. That is a great thing. Nobody can take any of that away from them. But that doesn't give the clearance to act like complete imbeciles and throw out all these toxic tweets and posts and videos like they do today. And the way that Zack Snyder handled it and talked about it was completely wrong. Conquest says Batman v Superman versus Superman. Robin came to Bruce in a dream and he was dead. Wait, I just seen it was Jason, not Grayson. But I didn't like the that universe because of all those characters were missing. I got you. I see now. Blood Ocean. James Gunn has the free will to do what he wants, not what the internet decides. Yeah, I mean, James Gunn does, and of course he does have a boss that he needs to listen to. So, of course he's got to listen to the boss. Hunter Iggy says, did you see Jody Corner roasting Snyder for defending the Snyder Bros? I hate Jody Corner. I dislike Jody's Corner because he's a flip-flopper. Complete flip-flopper. So I don't care about him. Hydra Asylum Comics says it also feels like when you criticize something, some people automatically assume that means you don't like it. Love Superman, still have some gripes about it. Doesn't negate the love I have for it. Correct. I say that all the time too. Look, I like Batman v Superman, but there's issues with it. I like Zack Snyder's Justice League. There's issues with it. I like Superman 2025, but there's issues with it. You can sit there and enjoy something, but say, look, there's some issues with it. Look, I'm a pop culture commentator. If I came on here and just talked positively about everything all the time, constantly, I would not be very good at what I'm doing. So yeah, I look at everything as a whole, the good, the bad, the ugly. I take a look at it. I discuss it. That doesn't mean I don't like something. So Blood Ocean says The Rock tried to take over and even that fell through. Yeah, I mean, that fell through because, well, Black Adam wasn't a terrible movie, but it wasn't a good movie. Nobody went to see it. It was the DCEU that was failing and falling apart. Let's not forget that Abdi DeLuca, they all went behind Zaslav's back, essentially, bringing Cavill back in, promising him things that they weren't actually able to promise him at the time. They didn't sign the contract, and Cavill got pissed off. He fired his management team for allowing it to happen. I mean, there's so much story behind that people just ignore. But yeah, I mean, he lost out because he just didn't know what was going on. He did the same thing that Hamada was trying to do, trying to take what started in 2013 and continue it in his own way, instead of just saying, let's start fresh and new, like James Gunn did. Blood Ocean says, hearing Etrigan rhyme all the time on the big screen would be so much fun. Indeed it would. And that is the last comment here. This was a great show, guys. I enjoyed it. I hope you got some information and some valuable information from this episode. It was a lot of fun talking to all of you. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining in and watching. Those of you who decided to jump in and watch me on the vertical stream, thank you. It's something I'm going to try out for a little while here, see if it picks up any steam and does well. We'll see. Those of you who are watching on the regular horizontal, awesome. Thanks for being here. I will be putting up videos through the rest of the week, so be on the lookout for that. I got some cool ideas. I'm really diving into a lot more deeper lore, deeper things when it comes to DC on my channel, so be on the lookout for that. I just posted a video today on my theories for Man of Tomorrow, so that's a lot of fun, so you can go check that out. But guys, thank you all so much for watching today and stopping by. Remember, you can catch this on replay on your podcatching app of choice. So just look up /Free Talk and you'll find it there. But with all that said, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you all later.